Alright, this is the first video we should see tomorrow. I'm going to go over the quiz. You took the equations quiz. If you haven't taken the equation quiz, whoever the sub needs to put you out in the hall and let you do it. So put them way down in the hall so they can't see it. So I don't have a calculator, so I'm going to do this and show you the equations and figure that you can, you would have hit the buttons right on your calculator. For those of you who didn't get your remakes, there's a few of you a few of you who didn't get your Scantrons and the test to remake. The remakes are due tomorrow. Those of you who weren't here when I handed them out, they're on the corner of my desk, so get those before you leave. Your free response questions I'll have for you on Friday, and then you'll have the weekend to make that up. And then those will all be due, and I'll have everything in the grade book for you by Monday. So let's go over this. Alright, if real equals nominal minus inflation, right? So if real equals 7 and nominal equals 8, so what is inflation? So solve for this. So you can say that inflation plus 7 equals 8, so inflation has to equal 1. Okay? So for the first one it's 1. Everyone can see that. The second one, there are 150 people employed, 10 are unemployed, 210 adults, age 16 or older, figure the CLF. Alright, well the CLF equals the employed people plus the unemployed, so that would equal 160. So if you get 160, that's the CLF. To figure out the unemployment rate, you'd hit the number of unemployed over that, so 10 over 160 times 100. Remember, the only reason we use 100 is just to move the decimal place over, right? So you can find it in percent form. And then to find the labor force participation rate, how many people 16 and over are actually participating in the economy, you just take CLF, which is 160, over the adult population, which is given to you, which is 210 times 100, and whatever that ends up being, that's how you did it. So that's numbers 1 and 2. I have to go fast, so I get this all in one freaking video. Alright, price elasticity. I looked at a few of you guys. You guys are all over the place on this. You, as a class, roundly sucked on the price elasticity. So we're going to want to fix that just so you can understand elasticity. It's probably not going to be the test. It's more of a micro term, but the idea behind it's important because we'll start looking at elasticity of like interest rates and money supply and stuff. So, see price and quantity. Here's the demand curve. It was 20 and 50 at point A, and point B is 15 and 75. Alright? We know our equation is Q sub 2 minus Q sub 1 over Q sub 2 plus Q sub 1 divided by 2 all over P sub 2 minus P sub 1 over P sub 2 plus P sub 1 divided by 2. Alright, so we do the quantity over the price, and you want to use the bigger numbers first. Some of you guys were having like 50 minus 75, it's going to give you a negative number, that's going to throw off your elasticity. Alright, so quantities first, so 75 minus 50 over 75 plus 50 divided by 2 all over 20 minus 15 over 20 plus 15 divided by 2, and then, work that out. So, that'd be 25 over 160, sorry, 25 over 62.5, all over 5 over 17.5, and then you can do the math on that. So, that's how you do number 3. I think we might need another equations quiz if everyone's not perfect on your equations, because knowing the equations makes multiple choice questions so much easier. Alright? The nominal, so you just add up. For nominal you add G plus I plus C plus X, and X is E minus I, right? That equals the nominal. GDP real equals nominal over the price index times 100, and then to find the per capita, you just take the real GDP over the population, right? And that's it. So, for instance, for number 1, it'd be year one was 100 plus 500 plus 75. Exports and imports are both 50, so they cancel each other out. So nominal interest, or nominal GDP ends up being 675, right? The price index, so this is nominal, the index was 110, so to find real GDP, you take 675 over 110 times 100, and so whatever that ends up being, probably 630 something or whatever it is, and then you take that number over the population, and that gives it, right? You can do that for number one and number two. If you did it correctly, then you're good. I know the year two is the nominal is a lot higher, and the population is higher, so probably the per capita is smaller. So they want you to know what is the percent change from year one to year two in real GDP per capita. All right, so you have to have the correct per capita numbers, and you just take year two minus year one over year one times 100, right? So I think probably actually you'll end up with a negative number, because I think per capita GDP actually went down. So number 5, you use this equation. Remember, this is the percent change equation for CPI or GDP or GDP per capita or whatever else you're trying to do. Okay? So that is that. Let's see how many minutes I've got. Alright, doing pretty good. Okay, so that is number 4 and number 5. Those are all old ones, so let's look at newer ones. Number 6 says if MPC equals 0.8 and there is a $200 billion recession, show how much G would need to change and how much taxes need to change to go to equilibrium. Okay, so our government multiplier equals 1 over 1 minus MPC or 1 over MPS. We know that if MPC is 0.8, MPS has to equal 0.2, right? So 1 over 0.2 equals 5, right? So we take our 200 divided by 5, and then that means you need to increase government spending by $40 billion. All right, if we want to look at taxes, the tax multiplier is negative MPC over MPS. It's not the same multiplier, remember, because part of the money that you get from savings and taxes, they cut taxes, you're going to save some of that money. And you're going to save however much the multiple propensity to save is. So you'll save that, and so you have to cut taxes by more than you'd have to increase government spending. So it's going to end up being 4, right? So negative 0.8 over 0.2 equals negative 4. You divide 200 by 4, right? And that equals negative 50, which means you have to cut taxes by $50 billion. So increase government spending by 40 and decrease taxes by 50. That's our first real fiscal policy multiplier. So that's how you do that one. If you did it, good. If you didn't, that's not good. We're going to have more of these to make sure you're good on this. Don't worry, it'll be tested over and over and over. If you're not good at it now, then you need to let me know why you're not good at it. Let me know what you're not good at so we can practice it. Only 3 people were at Backer Day the day before this, which tells me that the rest of you apparently knew it. So if you're not knowing it, you have to let me know, or else I can't help you. All right, let's talk about number 7 wants to know the deflator, right? The GDP price deflator. This should have been a simple question on the whole quiz. It's just nominal over real times 100, right? So I gave you nominal as 175. I gave you the real as 150, and then all you got to do is use your calculator to figure this out, right? So that's, I don't even know what that is. It's 100 and something. So it's 25. That's 7 over 6 times 100. So that's 1 1/6. 6 is, so it's like 118 or something like that, right? Okay, so that's all you got to do. That should have been the easiest one on the whole kit and caboodle other than the first one. Alright, so let's look at number 8. Number 8 is a monetary policy one, right? So we have a reserve requirement equaling 20%. And there is a deposit of a $1,000 deposit. All right, of this $1,000 deposit, how much do they have to keep in reserves? Well, they have to keep 20%. So first of all, what's our multiplier? Our money multiplier is going to be 1 over the reserve requirement, which is 1 over 0.2, and so our multiplier is 5. That doesn't give us the answer. We have to know this to get the answer, right? So that means that this $1,000, right, this is a deposit, the bank can loan out 800, and then in reserves they have to keep 200. So this is how much can be loaned out. Alright, so the question is, what will be the change in the money supply as a result of this? So the defined change in the money supply equals excess reserves, which is 800. This is what they have in excess after the reserve requirement, right? Times the multiplier. So that's 800 times 5. 800 times 5 is somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000, or exactly 4,000. Did you get this? Now, if I was to ask, what is the money supply with the deposit? So what is the total money supply? Not the change in money supply, but the total money supply with this deposit. Then you take the deposit times the multiplier and you get $5,000, right? But I asked him for the change in the money supply as a result of this deposit. So the answer is 4,000, all right? That's number 8. All right, the last one is CPI. It was a little tricky. If you didn't go back and study your notes and study it, or come to macro day, it's probably tricky, right? So let's see how much time we have. So we have year 1, year 2, year 3. We know CPI is current or nominal weighted prices over base weighted prices times 100, right? Okay. And just you can use whatever year you want to be the base. I always use year 1. All right. You have pens, you've got markers, and you've got hats, right? And it's $1, $1.25, $1.50, 0.75, $1, $1.50, 10, 11, and 12. All right, and I gave you quantities on all of these. But remember, if we want to compare apples to apples, you have to use the same quantities every year. So the only quantities that really mattered in this were year 1's quantities. And so it was 5, 3, and 1, right? So this would be $5, this would be $2.25, and this would be 10. So our total over here would be $17.25, right? All right, and then so $1.25 times 5 is $6.25, I think. Yeah, and then $1 times 3, so it's $3.11. So that's 14. That's 20, 25, and then $1.50 times 5 is 3, 6, 7, 50. Right, $1.50 times 3 is $4.50, and 12 times 1 is 12. So this is $12. This is 24. So for year 1, we just take $17.25 over $17.25 times 100. If we want to make year 1 base, this crosses out. So year 1 CPI is 100. Year 2 is the 2025 over the original base year, 1725 times 100, whatever that is. I'm not going to figure it out. You have a calculator. Year 3's is 24 over the original base year, 1725 times 100, and you can figure that out too. So that's the quiz. If you have questions, text me or call me or whatever. I'll be back on Friday, but this is how you do it. We're going to have more equation quizzes. We're not going to be adding many more equations, but I want you to know these equations. So if you know them now, your world gets really easy. If you don't, your world is going to be harder until you do make them easier for yourself.